Today, you are going to get a front row seat to the behind-the-scenes story of the Springboks' journey at the 2011 Rugby World Cup with assistant coach Dick Muir. Dick, welcome back to Front Row Rugby.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pete, and well done with the work you're doing.
Before we begin our conversation, let's take a look at today's trivia question. Who was the top try scorer for the Springboks at the 2011 Rugby World Cup? Now, if you know the answer to the question, you can put it in the comment section down below, and we'll also find out if Dick knows the answer, but we'll do that at the end of our conversation. Dick, let's begin on the eve of the 2011 Rugby World Cup. As a coaching staff, how confident were you guys that you could go there and win the tournament?
We were an experienced squad. We were confident about going to the World Cup. We obviously were going in there with the view of peaking at the right time, so we were slightly underdone going into the World Cup, but confident that we were going to peak at the correct time and be able to go on and win the World Cup.
The opening match against Wales was actually quite a tight affair. Talk to me about the nerves that you were experiencing in the coaching box.
Yeah, look, we were well prepared for that Wales game. Obviously, Wales were playing exceptionally well, and it was a close encounter right to the bitter end. However, we had the confidence in our squad that we were going to pull it through, and we were applying pressure in the right areas of the field. And if we just carried on doing what we were meant to be doing, we were going to be successful. So, although it was a close encounter, it wasn't too nerve-wracking for me in the coach's box.
Describe your role on the training ground.
Yeah, my role as the assistant coach to Peter De Villiers, alongside Gary Gold, who was the other assistant coach, was particularly around the back line with the two units. Gary looked after the forwards, I looked after the backs, and then Gary sort of controlled more the defensive side, where I controlled the attacking side. We also had Jacques Nienaber and Rassie Erasmus that joined us. Jacques was more on the defensive side, as well as Rassie more on the technical side. But we had a formidable coaching team, and we were well prepared for the World Cup.
And what was your relationship like with Peter De Villiers?
I had a very good, open relationship with Peter. We respected each other from and had worked together for before. So Peter and I had a very good relationship. He allowed me to do what I could do best, and I had the right respect for Peter as well.
After that Wales match, we then played Fiji and we hammered them. Would you say that we were starting to hit our stride at that stage?
Yeah, so we were well prepared for the Fiji game. Fiji are one of those teams that you don't want to take too lightly. So there was good motivation, good leadership that was on and off the field. And we went in with a very experienced side. So, yeah, we won that game quite easily, and we were happy with our performance.
And after that, we came up against Namibia, and we actually put on the biggest victory margin of the tournament against the Namibians. How difficult can it be preparing for a team like that, knowing that you're going to win comfortably?
Yeah, so typically when you play against a team like Namibia, where you expected to win and you expected to win comfortably, it's really important to make sure as coaches that the players are on edge, that they're excited about the match, and that they don't take anything for granted. So, it's just one of those coaching things. The bigger the game, the less motivation needed by the players. So, it was one of those games where, the guys did what they needed to do, and we got the result that we wanted.
Let's talk a little bit about our match against Samoa. We were 13-0 ahead after 30 minutes, but then we didn't score another point. And yes, we ended up winning, but perhaps the victory margin was too close for comfort. What happened that night?
Yeah, the game against Samoa was a very interesting game. We got into the lead quite early on, and then we sort of tended to take our foot off the pedal a little bit. But a game, one's got to give credit to Samoa. Samoa played particularly well. We probably gave them too much possession in the second half, and ended up having to defend our try line quite a bit. But the the problem that happened to us on that particular night was that we picked up some injuries, and that's exactly what you don't want in a World Cup. Is you've got guys that you've sort of earmarked to be your starting lineup, and if you pick up injuries, it is a little bit disruptive. But that's the nature of the game. So you've got to just be able to roll with the punches.
Let's talk about the physicality for a moment. We often hear other teams talk about the Springboks and having to meet the challenge that we present physically. But then we also hear about Samoa, Fiji and Tonga, the Pacific Island nations, and the physicality that they bring to the table. Talk to me about the differences.
Yeah, so the physicality that's spoken about a lot, a team like South Africa is generally physical at places like the breakdown, the driving mauls, the in contact area. Whereas if you have a look at the island teams, generally where they're more physical is that they come in with big hits, sometimes a little bit off the ball incidents where, if somebody's and some of those hits are maybe a little bit late, but one can't really generalize. I think the biggest thing for me is you get to playing against these teams where you just know that there are going to be some big hits, and you've got to brace yourself for that.
Do you really know your rugby? Do you always get your predictions right? Why not make some money then? Open an account right now with Tic Tac Bets and get up to 2,000 Rand and 20 spins with your first deposit. The link is appearing on your screen, and I'll also put it in the description area. Please note that this is an affiliate link and I will make a little commission on it. Winners know when to stop. National Responsible Gambling Program. Toll-free helpline 0800 006 008. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. So there was a documentary that came out after South Africa won the 2019 Rugby World Cup. We saw a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and at halftime you see there's a lot of talking, there's a lot going on. What were you doing in the change room in 2011, Dick?
Yeah, with every coaching team, there's a protocol that one would stick to at halftime. So, typically what we did in 2011 was when the guys got into the change room, we allowed them some time just to be able to replenish the tanks, to rehydrate, and then for the guys just to relax a little bit. We'd split into two groups, one being the forwards, the other being the backs. We'd discuss things that had gone well, things that we'd struggled with, things we wanted to change tactically where we saw opportunities. And then obviously your substitutions is a big thing as well. So just to get your head around that and know exactly what you're going to be looking to do when. And then we'd get together as a team. We would have pre-discussed what our thoughts were around the tactics that we wanted to implement or change or stay the same, but it's around that, and again, what you want to be able to do is hear it from the players' side. So it's not just sort of coach centered; it's also from the players' side what they'd like to do and what they would like to change. So there seems to be this hype about what's said at halftime and what's not. The good teams are the ones that are pretty relaxed at halftime, and they know exactly what they're wanting to go out and do in the second half, and that's where the tactical astuteness and your use of the substitutes is very important.
Speaking of half-time, in the quarter-final against Australia, we were 8-3 down at the interval, despite dominating territory and possession. What were your feelings at that stage?
So the half-time feeling, against Australia was quite frustrating because we were doing a lot of the playing, but we weren't getting the recognition or the results on the scoreboard. Wasn't sort of going our way. So we were making little errors that kept them in the game, and obviously we were then chasing the game. So there was a little bit of frustration. A lot of the refereeing decisions were going against us, and that you could feel that the sort of frustration that was going on amongst the players. again, we were doing what we wanted to do. It was just a matter of time as to when we were going to get rewarded for the hard work that was being put in, and then in particular, that try that we scored that was disallowed, and there was a few other of those sort of incidents that happened, and with that, the sort of clock's winding down, and then you're staring down the barrel. So I must say it was a very frustrating game against a very good Australian outfit. That they'd won the Tri Nations in the lead up to the World Cup, so they were never to be underestimated. But it was a game that we felt that we should comfortably have won, and obviously not doing that, we couldn't progress in the World Cup.
These days, Dick, at halftime, we often see interviews with the assistant coaches, and when the team is trailing, often the message that we hear will be stick to the processes, trust the processes. But to the casual fan, the question might be, if what you're doing isn't working, then why not try something else? Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, so in the lead up to matches or seasons or campaigns, whatever you're talking about, you sort of set aside what your plan is, and you work accordingly. So a lot of hard work goes into the preparation of these sort of games, and so you've got a system, and the system's obviously been working for you and your team, and everybody believes in that. So sometimes when things aren't going the way that you want them to go, you just want to revert back to the self-belief that there is, and to be able to carry on doing what you are wanting to do. Some of the time is the opposition have come in with a tactical change or something that prevents you from doing what you're wanting to do, and that's when you've got to be able to be flexible enough to be able to adjust to the circumstances. Whether it's weather conditions, whether it's the referee, whether it's a particular player that's playing well versus one that's not playing so well. You've got to be able to adapt under the circumstances, and that's where your leadership on the field is very important, and for the guys to be able to see the opportunities and take those opportunities. And that's part of the process of coaching, is to be able to say, listen, guys, this is what we want you to do under these sort of circumstances, and allow the players to express themselves and to be able to make those decisions, because they're the guys that are on the field and they're going to be making those calls. So, it's a whole process. And for me, whether you measure yourself as a coach on wins and losses, it's about that improvement and gaining that maturity as a group, and the leadership and the understanding and everything else that goes with it.
Morné Steyn slots a drop goal with 20 minutes to go, and we are finally in the lead. Are you thinking at that moment, at long last?
Yeah, it's funny how this sort of ebb and flows happen in a match, and the biggest thing is to just trust the process. So when you have a situation like that where Morné hits a drop goal and you go ahead, you do feel that finally we're now in a position where we're going to extend that lead, and we're not going to be under the pressure that we are under. So it's strange how different coaches sort of adapt to that situation. But for me, it was a sense of relief that we've gone ahead, and we're now going to sort of just consolidate, because we were making a lot of nervous errors, and it was quite frustrating that the decisions and the bounce of the ball wasn't kind of going. The refereeing decisions, that is, weren't sort of going our way, and at the time, David Pocock was giving us a tough time at the breakdown, and we didn't and whether fairly or unfairly, but we didn't cope with that very well. So we were turning the ball over, and again, it was just frustrating from not being able to get the reward where we needed to.
It's fair to say that whenever that match is discussed, the refereeing performance is brought up. Talk to me about the frustration that you guys were feeling in the aftermath of the defeat.
Yeah, when you talk about that particular match, often the referee comes into play, and that's part of the game. So one needs to be able to handle that situation. Obviously, in a knockout competition like that, it's very frustrating that those decisions don't go your way. However, we were a team that were good enough to not be putting ourselves under the pressure of having to rely on refereeing decisions that go your way or don't go your way. So it was a World Cup which you would feel that we could have progressed, and we were the team that were able to beat New Zealand. And obviously, with them having gone on and won the World Cup, in hindsight now, you say that South Africa could have posed that the biggest threat to the All Blacks. But again, it's history, and they did incredibly well, and it was a well-deserved World Cup for them.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video, why not consider becoming a patron? You can click on my Patreon link, I'll put it on the screen as well as in the description box, and there will be great benefits for members. Let's get back to the interview. Okay, Dick, I have a theory, and it goes as follows. New Zealand had a record at the World Cup at that stage where they would get to the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and sometimes even final and choke, as it were. And obviously, with South Africa being their greatest rivals, and had we won that quarterfinal, we would have played them in the semi-finals. And I think that the New Zealanders may actually have been overwhelmed by the nerves, maybe even panicked a little bit, and we would have won that semi and gone on to win the final. I'd like to hear your thoughts on my theory.
Yeah, it's all hypothetical, So, one can think whatever you want, but the situation is that you lose a quarterfinal, you're gone. What could have happened in the semi-final? That's how long's a piece of string, But for me, we really felt that we had the measure of the All Blacks, and had we won that quarterfinal, we would have played against the All Blacks. I'll leave it to your judgment to call it as you wish.
Was there a player in the squad who you got on particularly well with?
Yeah, I must say that I was very fortunate in that we had good relationships with all the players, and we treated everybody evenly. So, the leadership group led well. The players responded. There was a great work ethic amongst everybody, and everybody got along. So, whether you measure your success on winning and losing, I think it's all those aspects that one's got to look at to say, in your tenure, was there synergy? Was there a collective working together? How was the leadership group? Did you leave the team in a better place than where you got them at the beginning? And I think we can comfortably say that we did.
Now, during a World Cup, you can be away from home for around 2 months, and that means that there is an opportunity to experience the host nation. Talk to me about what it was like experiencing New Zealand, the country, during that World Cup.
Yeah, so New Zealand as a country has always been a great place to tour for us, particularly as South Africans, because the outdoors, the passion and the love for rugby. And then, the extramural activities. I mean, there's just so much to do, so many beautiful places. So, as a team, we enjoyed touring in New Zealand, and we had a lovely time, and it's a great place to visit.
Last time you were on Front Row Rugby, you told me an hilarious story about giving Nick Mallett, the assistant coach at the time, sleeping tablets while on tour. Dick, in this case, you were now the assistant coach, and with the roles being reversed, I'm keen to hear, did the players play any pranks on you?
I must say, in any team environment, there's a time when one needs to be serious, and then there's a time to be pretty jovial and enjoy everybody's company. And with that, there's a lot of practical pranks, and I was often on the receiving end of those practical pranks, where that when you sort of enjoy that space. So the one that stands out to me was we were en route to a semi-final in Super Rugby, and my fellow coaching team with the Sharks at the time was Grant Bashford and John Plumtree. And we'd decided that we'd get the players on the plane to be able to stay awake for a certain period so that we could adapt to the time zones in Australia en route there. And when they went down to check on the players, they found one of the players to be sleeping. So they came back to me and they reported back. And when we half an hour later, they sort of said, "Listen, Dick, it's you go down there, just have a look at one of the players, the third row on the left-hand side. One of the players there was sleeping earlier. Just if he is, just give him a slap on the head and make sure you keep him awake." So when I went down there, lo and behold, there he was sleeping again. So I gave him a crack on the head. But with that, it was a Japanese tourist that was sitting in business class that had received his second one. So that reflected pretty poorly on me. But yeah, lots of pranks that happened, and a lot of fun that was had, and camaraderie amongst the players, coaches, and everybody else in the team.
Okay, Dick, let's finish off with the trivia question. Who was the top try scorer for the Springboks at the 2011 Rugby World Cup? Do you know the answer, Dick?
Yes, I think I do know who it was. It was Francois Hougaard, who was playing on the wing and at scrum half. So Francois was one of the guys that got to finishing off a lot of the moves, and he was our top try scorer at the World Cup.
Francois Hougaard indeed. Dick, let me say it was lovely having you on Front Row Rugby today. A pleasure as always, and I hope that we can have you on again in the future.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Peter, and good chatting to you, and all the best to your audience, and enjoy the World Cup. I think it's going to be a really exciting one, and go South Africa.
Thank you so much for watching. This interview is part of a series I'm doing which includes behind-the-scenes stories of each of the Rugby World Cups featuring the Springboks. You can go and watch one of the other videos appearing on your screen right now. See you next time.